Okay, so now that we have finished the estimate activity resources process here in the 6th edition of the PMBOK from the crowd training, let's go through the inputs, outputs, tools, and techniques one more time to review. Obviously starting with the inputs. Well, if we're going to estimate what the resources are going to need, we need to know the plans. And so I'm going to draw the file folder to represent a big drawer that it consists of lots of different plans that we need to plan for. Obviously, we need to know the scope. We need to know, well, what are our resources and how we're going to manage those resources. So all those things in the project management plan are going to help be used as inputs to help us decide what we need to estimate and how we're going to go about estimating it. Also, there's various different documentation that's going to assist us in doing this. That documentation could be really anything. I mean, obviously, we need to know the activities in which we're looking for to figure out the resources for them. So the activity list is probably the easiest and most obvious. But also we're going to look at the attributes for it, maybe looking at our assumptions that we've made, maybe even some cost estimates that may have been made up to this point or researched and documented or looked at from previous projects. And since we are a product of our environment, our estimating of resources are going to be a product of our enterprise environmental factors. So things like our company won't let us outsource, or we must use union contracts, or we have to follow whatever the program is using. Maybe we have to follow that lead and use the same resources, and we go from there. Also, too, with luck, we've done this before, and so we might have some binders and some documents and some templates. So our organizational process assets that can lend us a little bit of assistance and guidance, some policies that are enabling us to better look at and estimate our resources for the activities. All right, those are the inputs. We're going to use those inputs to help us get to the end result, but looking at the tools and techniques, lots of them. One can use the very simple, well, we just kind of know. We just have done this before or have seen it done before, and we can then use our expert judgment. And, that just could be, again, experience. It could be knowledge. It could be just education. And then there are various different ways we can estimate. And one is kind of our bottom-up estimating, and that is if we have our work breakdown structure very detailed, or our activity lists very detailed, and we work from the bottom of the details all the way up, then we're going to have a pretty good estimate. And that's why we call it bottom up, because you're going with these smaller pieces all the way up to the larger pieces and hopefully getting some good estimates that way. We can also go the other way, and we can use analogies. So our analogous estimating, where we're sometimes referred to as top-down, where we're saying, well, in the past it's cost about this much, so based on this scenario, I'm guessing, it's not apples to apples, but you know what? It's close enough, and we can use our analogies to help us estimate. We can also use our parametric estimating, and that I'm kind of going to simplify it here using algorithms and various different tools and equations. So I'm just going to draw a nice little calculator to help us indicate a more mathematic look at how we're going to go about the estimating. Also, we can analyze the data. So there's various different tools to help us analyze it, and those alternatives, like should we go this way or that way, or what would it cost if we did this or this, and then trying to estimate what's the best path to go about, or based on our risks and other different variables. There's also tools like the project management information system. I'll just kind of draw a computer that can maybe give us a tool like that just simplifies or calculates a lot of those estimates. And then a lot of times we just have to talk it over. We need to hold a meeting and discuss it and evaluate it and look at everything and make those judgments. So our meetings are another technique. All right, so as I said, lots of different tools and techniques, but now let's move on to the outputs. Those outputs, well, we should, if we are setting out to estimate the requirement or the resource estimates, we should have requirements for those resources. So we should have resource requirements, in terms of the estimations of what it needs and how many they need. So is it, the number of people, maybe it's a truck, or maybe it's just computers or infrastructure or people or skill sets, or all of the above. So those various different resources are going to be estimated, and when we come through with it, we're going to keep working on these requirements based on the information that we have, and that information could change, but we should have some rationale as to why we got these estimates. So what are the bases of these estimates? Like, how did we come about them? Like, what's the supporting details that may or may not be good, and we're going to go about giving a better estimate as we progressively elaborate through the project. And the more we learn and the more we know, the better our estimates could possibly get. Also, we can look at the various different resources and then break them down to the various different parts, however we want to, arrange that. I'm drawing a few different styles of a breakdown, but in any case, it's a resource breakdown structure. That again could be your resources like equipment. It could be, you can have an organizational breakdown structure, an OBS, WBS is similar, so lots of BS. All right, and then finally, we've got these documents again that we've been using to help us make our assumptions and make our ideas and our policies and our estimates of the activities. And so all of those are going to need to be updated. And so that would be the last of the outputs. And that's a quick reminder of what we covered here in the Crouch Training's Estimate Activity Resources process in the 6th edition.